What is going on, film fans? This is Brad from Let's Be Real Brad, and I know you guys are probably wondering, Brad, this is a really different kind of video. Why are you doing something like this instead of seeing your beautiful and amazing face on camera with your hands waving in the air after every single point that you make? And I'm glad that you asked, because I have been feeling very insecure on YouTube lately, and it's more because of my body image and just the way that I feel on camera, as I feel like I don't even deliver any of my points correctly just because I'm so focused on what I look like and what are my hands doing. With all that being said, let's dive into the review of the brand new body horror film that came out last weekend in limited release, and that is called Hatching. Hatching is directed by Hannah Bergholm in her first feature film debut, and I'm excited to say that I can't wait to watch another movie from Hannah Bergholm, because this was a great body horror film. What I enjoyed so much about Hatching was the fact that this movie focuses so much on the characters rather than just the external factor of the monster in this movie, because there are so many horror films that just do this because the whole marketing behind the movie is just about the monster or the creature or the ghost. But this movie heavily relies on the characters here and the story and the writing, and it actually feels more like a drama filled with horror elements than the typical horror film that we get in movie theaters nowadays, which I do enjoy. A horror film that focuses on being more of a drama and about its characters, and that's what this movie is able to do so well, especially with this mother and daughter dynamic, which I think is something that we don't get a lot of in horror films. This was a really interesting take on a story like this, because the other characters in this movie don't really matter, and I guess you could say it's a criticism, but the idea of having the story be somewhat metaphorical and interpretive, but also being like realistic at the same time, made this movie so much more interesting, because I had to guess what is actually real and what's not in a really interesting way. And so let's just dive right into the positives first, because I have a ton with this movie, and I want to start with the monster. This is gonna be the biggest selling point of this movie, and I think it is fantastic. This is exactly what I want in horror films, to be able to have a puppet for most of the movie and then to be able to change into different performers and all this makeup and costume design. It looks so beautiful and real. I mean, you really can't tell that there's an actual person in this monster outfit. But what I love so much about this film is the fact that Hannah Bergholm actually gave a character arc to the monster, and not in the way that we've seen in like the Universal classic monster films, which are great by the way, but in a way that we're able to interpret it ourselves. Fia Haikilia, who plays the mother, I don't know if I pronounced her name right, but I apologize if I messed it up. She was fantastic in this movie, as I really enjoyed her performance here as this demanding mother. I also thought the daughter in this film, played by Siri Solalina, which I don't know if I pronounced her name right, but I do apologize if I did. She was also really great in this film, and I think she deserves a lot of credit here, because she is literally in the whole entire film, as it is based on her, and I think she did such a great job, especially interacting with the monster, and we get to see this character change over time mentally, and she is able to sell it. What I enjoyed about the story is that it feels more like a drama with very interesting and developed characters rather than a stereotypical horror film, but I do think this movie focuses on this family dynamic at its core, and it kept me more emotionally invested, as well as I really wanted to see what was going to happen with these characters and where the story was going to take them, and I felt invested within that. I also think that this movie just feels very personalized, as this focuses on a young daughter who has a lot of insecurity and trying to live up to this demanding mother. I also thought that the violence in this movie was really good as well, as it felt very terrifying, and I felt like it had some consequences with it, and it doesn't have that Halloween or Friday the 13th kind of just killing a bunch of people and we're enjoying it. It really has consequences when someone is killed or something bad happens to one of the characters, and it just made the movie feel more realistic and have real scares to it. Unfortunately, this film does have a few negatives here, with the first one being that there are two characters in this movie, mainly the dad and the son, that don't get a lot of screen time, and they do feel like they're not as important to the story, so it's not as bad of a criticism, but I do feel like they should have been given a little bit more character development, simply because they do feel like plot devices for some things to happen in the movie. I do understand there's a metaphorical and deeper analysis to these characters because of some of the ways that Hannah Bergholm was able to use them. This movie does feature a couple of cliches and tropes that we have seen from these type of horror films before, and it's something that I'm always just going to criticize, even though this is a genre film. I do think it bothered me quite a bit, and I wish they were able just to make it a little bit more original and unique. And one of the last negatives I have with this film is one that I don't give to a lot of films, and it's that I wish this movie was longer. This movie clocks in around an hour and 30 minutes or an hour and 40, and this movie could have been so much longer because the story is so good and the characters are really interesting. Hatching was a really enjoyable horror film that has amazing direction from Hannah Bergholm, as this film features so many terrifying sequences in this movie. If you can get the chance to watch this film, even if you can rent it, I highly recommend it. You won't be disappointed. I'm giving Hatching a 7 out of 10. But before you guys check out this video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, hit a like if you want to, and ring that notification bell so you guys don't miss a single video. Let's go.